Before I call this meeting to order, I would ask Commissioner Pittman if he'd like to give an invocation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let us pray. Great God, our Father, we thank you so much for your love for us and your provision for all of our needs. Lord, you created this vast universe and cut out in it a place for us to be able to dwell. And we thank you, Lord, for the beauty of it all. You could have just made a world that was drab and boring. But Lord, you made it beautiful and exciting for us, and we thank you. Lord, we pray as we gather tonight that your Holy Spirit would prevail in us and among us. Lord, that your will may be done here in this place for the good of the people in this county. We pray it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you. I'll call to order the January 6th, 2025 Board of Commissioners meeting. And for everyone that's in the audience, just so you're aware, we are going to come back to the swearing-in ceremony that will take place at 6 o'clock. So we're going to move down to discussion items. Well, first, we're going to approve the agenda, but I just want to make sure everyone in the audience is aware that the swearing-in ceremony will not take place until 6 o'clock. With that being said, I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the work session agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion to approve the agenda with the changes that are listed on page 3. However, I also add a 5.18 general discussion of WASAC board appointments.
All right. Do I have a second to that motion?
Second.
All right. Any discussion?
Can I ask why we are removing the Planning and Zoning Commission appointment?
That will be brought up in a future meeting.
Okay.
All right. So we have a motion. We have a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Motion carries 4-1. All right. We'll move down to item 5.1, emergency medical services. This will be Jimmy Lentz.
Good evening. I actually have the first two items now with the adjustment. We come before you this evening. Our current system that we utilize to get real-time data tracking from the ambulances, be it whether red lights are on, speeds, check engine codes, doors open, stop, start, G-forces around curves. It gives us a lot of data. It has not been updated by the vendor. We work hand in hand with ITS and Mr. Shanley's people. And we're just not getting the service out of this product that we weren't sure, and it's just not being supported as it once was. We looked at several different companies that provide similar products, similar softwares and equipment, and we found a company, being Samsara, that the county is already established with 50 IAM vehicles. So it's something the county is already doing business with. The cost of this is going to be a little bit higher than the PRAN. The PRAN was in the $10,000 figure annually, and this one, the first year, is going to be $28,900, and then the second and third year, it's a three-year contract. The second and third year would drop to $28,400, and that's just simply the $400 in the first year reflects the shipping cost of the equipment to us. We have the money right now in our current budget to pay for year one because we would like to start this product now, but it would take some commitment from the board, and will be planned in the budget process in which we're in now for FY26 and FY27, which would be year 2 and 3 of this lease agreement. Deputy Chief Jonathan Malden is here if you have specifics on the equipment. This is a updated product. It does give us some camera recording technology, not in the patient compartment because you get into some HIPAA concerns there. It would be forward facing in the cab and then out the rear of the vehicle, but nothing in the patient care compartment. So that's what I've got on that.
Any questions? And so how long have we been with our current?
In around 8 years, okay. And as I was driving up here this evening to something else I thought was kind of interesting. In that 8 years, that product has not updated at all. It's doing what we get off the ones that are still functioning, which is not our whole fleet. We've got some that are not functioning and we can't get, they won't support it to get it working. But off the ones that are working properly, it's the exact same data and technology it was 8 years ago, which is a reflection of the lack of support.
Okay. And is any of those concerns in the current contract with our current provider.
They are not. It was just a year-to-year deal with the Demir's product. You were been on the board previously, and now we went with a Canadian product back years ago for safety features. Pran was a vendor for Demir's, and since we've got a mixed fleet now, we learned in COVID that we didn't want all of our eggs in one basket. So we're using 2 different ambulance manufacturers now for that reason. And it's just, they don't support the non-Demir's product very well, and they don't support the staff vehicles, be it the community paramedics and the Ford Super Duty vehicles that our supervisors drive.
Okay. And so with the new provider, will these items be covered in the contract to make sure that we are able to get support?
Yes, and I can't speak for the fleet folks, the IAM folks specifically, but in the research we did with them, they are very pleased, and they've been doing it for a couple of years. Mr. Shanley, I don't know if you know how long they've been doing Samsara, but they've got 50 vehicles on it, and they are very pleased.
Okay. Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, I don't have any questions. I do have a comment, though, in reference to the EMS in general. Cabarrus County, you've got a wonderful EMS department. You should be so proud. The money that we've spent, the new facility that we built, the employees that work for the county with EMS. We had an event at our house on Saturday, a week ago. My wife had an event, and within 5 minutes or less, EMS was there to take care of her, get her to the hospital, and get her fixed and sent back home. But I just want you to know, you should be proud of your staff. Citizens should be proud to have such a wonderful EMS as we have. Thank you very much, Jimmy.
Oh, thank you, and that is why we do it. And I know on my personal social media page, I put Saturday was my 35th anniversary, and I just told a gentleman on the elevator coming up here, it's because I still love it. And the support, the culture in which, and this is top to bottom, this is from you guys down to the newest EMS employee, the culture in which we promote is just amazing, and it really works to our benefit, so thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
if I may, I just want to say, as a former volunteer fireman and working with EMS during that time, I have a lot of respect for what you do, and we do want you to be able to be up to date and maintaining high standards, and it sounds like that's what you're trying to do,
That is correct.
so I appreciate that.
So you got the next item on our
I got the
agenda?
next, which will fall right into what Commissioner Pittman just said. The normal lifespan of a cardiac monitor, and this is a substantial piece of equipment in which we carry. Ironic timing, and I promise it was nothing more than ironic timing. I sent you guys invitations Friday for the Hearts and Heroes event, and if you've never been, I would certainly encourage you to come, because it's a fantastic event in which we showcase meeting and reuniting our caregivers from the 911 telecommunicator all the way through the cardiologist. If we can get them to come, they're a little bit tough to get to come, but anyway, we try to reunite everybody that was involved in a cardiac arrest situation that had a very positive outcome. So when I was sending that out the other day, I was like, it's kind of ironic timing when I'm coming before you to talk about cardiac monitors. But a cardiac monitor's typical life is 6 years. The ones we have now were purchased. They are ours, and they are at the end of their 6-year life in FY26. We have been researching the fact of moving forward and doing something. We are wanting to stay with the same brand. There's mainly just 2 brands out there. The brand we're with is one that we are fantastically pleased with the service and the product, and they are significantly cheaper by about $200,000 annually than the competing brand. So we're wanting to stay with the product by the name of Zoll, Z-O-L-L. It's a very well-known product in the field, and we're also with this wanting to replace the auto pulse devices. The auto pulse devices are a band device that goes around your chest that does mechanical CPR. It's a very efficient device. It's much more efficient than I'm not knocking hands to chest CPR. It's fantastic. But if you think about it, if you hold a wet sponge in your hand and you push down on one spot of the sponge, how much liquid you get out versus squeezing the whole sponge. The auto pulse device does circumferential squeeze the whole chest. The technology has improved with these devices. We do have these devices right now, that they are again getting to the end of their lifespan. the new version of these devices communicate to each other, so it's going to make the report writing much more accurate than having to cross-match numbers and times and stuff like that. And it's just an advancement in the technology. This will be, we're looking at and recommending a 10-year lease, no different than we did with stretchers last year when we come before you. So this will be done in the budgeting process. The reason we come before you now is Zoll's fiscal year is a fiscal year of April, and they are predicting a 30% increase in April. So if we don't have to do any money exchanging before then, but if we can get a commitment to them, they will respect it for the 10-year lease starting July 1st. It won't be as big a deal as it was with stretchers. Chairman Meesmer, if you remember with stretchers, the previous was a lease, so we had to have a product in line July 1st to go forward. This doesn't have to happen that quick, but we would like to move on it real quick in the next fiscal year. And it's a 10-year worry-free lease, so will be just wear items will be the only maintenance, and on monitors that's very minimal. But it is a $428,000 commitment annually for 10 years. The pro for that now is honestly not that big right now, because that's today's price. But they're honoring today's price for 10 years. So when we get to the end of that lease, there will be a significant savings for the county for the 10-year committal.
And now, what happens to you said the current equipment we own, we purchase, so what will happen?
We have worked it in, because it will be of no value to us. They have worked in a credit for that, and I can certainly provide those numbers. I apologize, I don't have them right now. But there is a trade-in value to them, and it is figured in this figure.
It is figured.
It is, correct.
Into this figure, okay.
Do you have, Chief Alden, do you have that? Okay, we'll get that to you. I'm sorry, I should have had that.
Yeah, I would just be interested
Sure,
to know.
we will provide that by tomorrow.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? All right.
Thank you.
Jimmy. All right, next on our agenda, 5.3, Finance. This will be Jim Howden.
Good evening, Commissioners. What you have in front of you is a budget amendment and 2 updated project ordinances. One project ordinance is for the county's capital project fund, and one is for the school's capital project fund. What we're looking for tonight is approval of the budget amendment and these ordinances. The budget amendment will allow the Finance Department to finish recording the financing that we did back in October and November, with some of the changes of the way we financed it and some of the projects actually being reduced in total cost. This BA will reflect all that.
Okay. Could you give us a little summary of some of the items that are down below, if our clerk could scroll to that chart? Would you go through some of that? It seems pretty general, proceeds from financing to offset legal costs, then there's legal cost. Could you explain some of those? Then there's other improvements. And also, too, on the left-hand side, the fund code. I've been going through the line item budgets that have been provided, and there is no 380 or 390 in those line item codes in the line item budget. So curious about that.
Well, I'm not sure, are you talking about the book that was provided?
Yeah, those line item.
Yeah, I
that
do
was
not know
about
why
this
the
thick.
380 and 390 wasn't provided.
I'm sorry.
I do not know why it was not provided, but we can definitely provide it.
Well, I mean, I have the line item budget in that book, but there was no code, correlating code with these items in that line item
Well,
budget.
and some of that is because with the financing, we are creating that. When we originally do the budget that gets approved by the board, we estimate and try to determine what we think these codes would be. And then this budget amendment allows us to track each project separately. And so a lot of these codes I set up, or the finance department sets up, so we can control and monitor what each project costs, and that way we know we're within budget.
Okay, so this 380 and 390 are new codes.
No, the 380 and the 390 are 2 funds. The 380 is the county capital project fund that's been in existence for a while, and the 390 is the school capital project fund.
Okay.
And those
now,
both
why were
tied
those
to-
not reflected in the line item budget that I have been reviewing?
That I cannot answer. I'm going to have to see how that was produced.
Okay, because, yeah, I couldn't find that anywhere in those. So Okay, well, can you go through some of these items and just kind of explain?
Yeah, so the legal costs, if we want to dive into that one, so we have two different legal costs, and again, we're breaking these down by the two different financings. So the first legal cost, which is the 2024A, would have underwriter cost, would have bond counsel cost, financial advisor, legal, all those various costs to do these financings. It also has the 3 rating agencies within it. And the 2024B is the same thing. So each one of these costs something different depending on what we were doing.
Okay, and so I see items that are labeled 2022. So what is, there's 2022B draw, 2022.
Yeah, so here's
A
where
financing.
here's where like the 2022B draw, the first one, that's where we're reducing the budget to reflect the new dollar amount. Because so what we did with the 2024As is paid off the 2024B. That was the draw program. So we didn't have to pay off the full budget amount. It actually came in a little bit less than what the project was originally budgeted for. So again, I'm trying to adjust all the projects to match what was approved and what we got financed for.
Okay, so you're saying in 2022, so the items on here that are reflected for 2022B, that, like the 2022B financing towards the end, 7 million. So is that projects from 2022 or projects from 2024?
It'd be projects from 2022,
Okay,
part of the draw program in 2022.
okay.
That with the 2024A financing, we paid off.
So
So the original budget was 7.5 million, but when we did the draw, when we did the lobs, we only did financing for 7,438,000.
So the 2022B draw, that is already financing that was out there? That was
Yes.
approved in 2022?
Yeah, and remember, these are just budget numbers. We're just taking, here's what it was originally budgeted. 2022 was approved by the board, approved by the LGC. We had the financing for it.
And so were those projects not then completed and closed out? Why are we using funds, additional debt from 2024 to pay off?
The
2022?
2022Bs was the draw program.
Right,
So
which
the
is a debt.
2024A paid that draw program off. We paid off that $160 million.
Okay, so, I mean, the 2022 draw, even though we're saying draw, that is a debt.
Yes.
Yes, it was a
We
debt, so
call
we're-
it draw so we can track it. This is all terminology we use in the finance
But I
department.
want to make sure everybody understands it. So the new financing that we received in 2024, used that to pay the debt that was from 2022.
That is correct. The 2022 was what we call a draw program or like a construction loan. The 2024A was the permanent financing for that, so we paid off that construction loan.
Okay, so then I want to ask about, on the next page, page 19, this will be at the beginning there where it talks about, we have debt proceeds, has each of the years listed, and then contributions from project fund, contribution from general fund. What is this contribution from general fund? 40.3 million. Is that already been contributed from the general fund, or?
Are you looking at what's on the?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, so this is the project ordinance. This is something that was already contributed by the general fund.
So it's already been previously
Correct.
contributed?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and keep in mind, these are over the past 10, 15 years.
Right, a combination.
Correct, correct.
All right, and so now the closeout of the previous budget, has happened. And then generally, historically, in January, there's a discussion about a surplus, and that is not on our agenda.
Correct. I hope to have that for you. It'd probably be February, unless I can get it added at the next meeting, but I would think it'd be February.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
What other questions? Yes.
Couple of questions I have. So we're going to go back up to the legal fees. So 1.8 million plus another 890,000. in legal costs. Is there any way that we can get a copy of those invoices to see what that's going to pay for?
Yes.
That's a
Yep.
lot of money for
Yes.
legal fees.
Yep.
Okay, and then the other thing is that, you know, I understand that you guys are used to kind of the way that this is laid out, but the general public, if they went on our agenda and tried to figure out what any of this meant, and I mean, honestly, just even myself, going through to look at what some of these acronyms most likely stand for, was pretty difficult. And so moving forward, I think that being able to be a little bit more transparent about what these items specifically are would be very helpful, not just for the public, but also for myself and probably the other commissioners as
Okay.
well. Certainly don't want to speak for them. Now, there is a $1.4 million increase in the construction line item of the MENT project. Is that the mental health facility project?
That is correct.
Okay, and so I'm just wondering what the increase is for, and what that would be paying for. I know that we received a grant from the state, which I believe was around 36 million. Is that right?
Correct. We received 2 of them, but yes.
Okay, so have we gone back to the state to ask them regarding this increase, if they would be willing to pay for that?
I have not, I'd have to ask Elise if she's in here, but I don't, but the 58 million is what was approved for financing.
Understand. So 36-ish from the grant.
Correct.
Right. Anything that's an increase over and above what's been approved, I would think it would be very prudent to go back to potentially to the state and ask if they would be willing, because this is a regional behavioral health facility, and it's not just Cabarrus County residents that are going to be paying for this. I would like to see the state kind of step up and pay more for that if possible.
Yeah, just wanted to clarify, the original state grant was for $32.5 million.
Okay.
And we just received notification last week that the state is planning to give us another $2.5 million.
Okay.
That conversation was being confirmed today. And so as soon as we get verification of that, we will certainly circle back to you.
Okay, awesome.
And that will go to the capital cost, is that correct?
It's actually going to go to soft costs, which Kelly can define it better than I can, but furniture, geotech,
Okay.
all that kind of stuff.
Not programming.
Yes, correct.
There you go. Thank you.
Thank you, Elise. I appreciate that. And then on this OPPOR project, is that the opportunity?
It's the Opportunity School, yes.
Okay. So $2.1 million increase. Is that something, do we know why the increase and the details behind that?
We can get the details. It's an increase from the original budget, which was approved probably last year at this time. And so the total project's 11.7 million. So this budget amendment's to reflect what we went to the LGC for and what we got financing for.
Okay.
So there's no one particular item saying that they did this or did that to increase it. It is just what, now that we have better cost, what the cost is from the original budget.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me just make sure I have. All right. And then also the $3.7 million increase for the Mary Frances Wall.
Same situation.
Okay. So all of this has already been approved
Correct.
money-wise?
Correct. That is correct.
Okay. And, okay. All right. I think that's it. Yep. Appreciate it.
No problem. And we'll add more detail to the,
I think it would just
what
be
everything represents. Yeah, we can do that.
helpful. Yeah.
Not a problem.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right. Next item on our agenda will be Human Resources, and this will be Lundy Covington.
Good Evening, Commissioners. I'm here to present to you this evening the fourth and hopefully final report on our total rewards benefits item. That was something we presented to the board originally at the board retreat back in February. So because we have a few new members of the board with us at this point, I thought it might be helpful just to do a few opening comments before I move to the slide deck. If that's okay. Just to kind of give you a little context. These projects were originally presented to you as an intention to catch up with what other local jurisdictions were offering. We did very thorough surveys at the point we presented this and saw that we were lagging behind in a number of our benefit areas. Basically, we had not made changes to a lot of these time off benefits for 20 plus years. So we felt it was definitely time to present that as an opportunity. The projects were basically intended to focus on both recruiting new employees, but also, and even more important probably, retention of existing staff. And we've talked about that a number of times, that is a way that we can definitely save the county money if we can retain the workers that we have. These projects were designed to be low cost but high impact for staff. And what I mean by that is for a number of these types of projects, the work that is being missed while somebody is out is going to be made up in a different fashion. So the work is either reassigned to another employee or it's potentially held until that employee returns. And that will be the case for departments like Human Resources, IT, Finance. There are other areas where there would be a small cost impact, and that would be basically in our public safety areas where they're 24/7 operations. But in that area, we feel like those departments do work very hard at reducing overtime costs, keeping those to a minimum. They use part-time staffing where available to help alleviate. So again, we feel like there's a small additional financial cost. Thus far, the employee feedback has been very positive. We are still working to complete the final approved project at this point, but we are seeing an increase in employee feedback. We've started to analyze the survey that we did back in November, and one of the areas that we've definitely seen an uptick is in the area of employee benefits, and we do attribute that to a lot of these projects that were approved. And then finally, many of these projects, as we described them, are use it or lose it types of items, meaning that the number of employees who are gaining advantage with them is relatively low compared to what I would consider the psychological benefit or impact. And that's where an employee feels very positive that we offer it, but they may not personally take advantage of that. So for example, with the paid parental bonding leave, since this was implemented in September, we've had 13 requests for use of that leave time. 4 of those were birth moms, 12 were dads, but again, in the relative scheme of things, a pretty small number. Likewise, bereavement was implemented about the same time. We've had just a small handful of requests, but I can tell you, particularly in that category, there has been a very positive response from those employees that were able to participate. So I wanted to kind of start out by telling you, first of all, thank you for allowing us to implement the projects we've done so far. Military leave is the final area we wanted to discuss. And we actually presented some information to the board back in November, if you recall, those that were with us. But at that point, wanted to do a more thorough review of the materials before we came back to you with a recommendation. So we're going to share with you a slide deck that Ashley Dobbins, our HR strategy manager, prepared for us. She's a bit under the weather and not able to be here with us in person tonight, but she is going to be available by Teams. So I'm going to do my best to lead you through it, and if there are any questions that I can't answer, hopefully Ashley will be able to do so. So it looks like Lauren has pulled that up for us, and starting with that next slide, I guess I'll have the clicker. Alrighty, so what we're showing you on the screen here are our current military leave benefits. That green highlighting is intended to emphasize the items that should stand out a little bit that we want to discuss. Right now, we currently offer 120 paid hours of military leave that can be used for required training or active duty, and that's 120 hours per calendar year. Once that time has been exhausted, employees can either choose to use their personal leave time, meaning their vacation time, or if they earn comp that time, or they can opt to go on to leave without pay status. So we have heard some concerns from some of our staff that it's problematic to have to use their personal leave time to maintain salary while they're out on military leave serving the country. We actually did implement a survey of our staff who have identified as veteran status and wanted to share some of that data in addition to the external research, because we really wanted to see what the impact was on them. So I'm going to show you just a few slides on that vein. So we asked our employees 6 questions about the current policy that we just showed. 44 employees responded out of 66 that we invited. The first question is just going to show you the branches that they represent. And again, this is just to the 44 who participated. Question 1, I'm currently impacted by this policy as active National Guard or Reserve status. So at the point of the survey, only a very few employees were impacted. And that's kind of going back to that point I just mentioned where psychological benefit is important. There are not a lot of employees who probably would be able to participate in this, but it means something to all of our military employees that we offer it, and not just the military employees. Other employees would have that same feeling as well. Question 2 was, I've utilized this benefit with Cabarrus County in the past, and again, you can see that a very small number have actually received any benefit from the military leave pay. We asked if 120 hours was appropriate, and we started to see the data shift a little bit here, so it was still pretty balanced that most are saying, yes, that's appropriate. I interpret that, though, I think the feeling there is that's the bare minimum. 120 hours is what we're required to provide in terms of USERA job protection leave. It doesn't have to be paid leave, but I think the feeling in the community and with our employees is that's a bare minimum we should be doing. The next question was whether that is actually sufficient to cover general living expenses in conjunction with the military pay, because while they're out, they are also being paid by the military if deployed for a longer amount of time. And you'll start to see a little shift here where more people are saying, no, maybe not so much. Question 5, we ask about a pay differential because we have heard that some other counties are offering that benefit. And that would basically be that gap pay between what they make with the county, what they make with the military. And as you would expect, very favorable response that would be beneficial and helpful. Finally, we ask for comments or suggestions, and you'll see a number of comments that we kind of interpreted here, starting with 120 hours not being sufficient to cover what they're missing out on by not being at work. They shouldn't have to deplete their personal leave to keep full pay. 12-hour shifts, and I would even go further to add those on 24-hour shifts. They're going to burn through that time much faster because they're having to take increments of time in 24 hours. So it goes quickly, and they're already out of that 120. There was definitely a sentiment that going into leave without pay status can cause the employee some heartache. They are getting time for retirement when in leave without pay. We're hoping to kind of rectify that with another change I'll mention, but basically there was concern that they were losing out there. And again, just a feeling that being deployed, they are giving of their time and making a sacrifice for their family, and we as an employer should step up and do a little bit more to assist. So we did a survey originally, and at that point the data really didn't seem to indicate that we were behind or had an issue. That's why this was one of the last items we're bringing to you. But we did have some feedback that perhaps we could be doing more. We took a second opportunity to survey again, and we asked the question a little bit differently. It seems like the first time everybody was doing what they have to do with USERA. No one really gave us any additional information, but we went out and really fished a little bit harder to see if anybody is doing more. And we did have 6 responses. You'll see those listed above, and the next couple of slides kind of show you what each of those jurisdictions are doing. And there was a range for sure, but you see with Union County, 10 paid days for inactive duty. It goes up to 20 days if they're activated. And then there's a wage supplement, such as I was describing a moment ago, up to 6 months. New Hanover, very similar, 10 days for full pay, and then the wage supplement up to 6 months. Iredell, on the lighter side, only doing the wage supplement for 10 days. Guilford and Johnson County, neither mentioned a time limit, which led to the impression that theirs is going beyond 6 months. And just to give you some facts there, we have on occasion had employees who are being asked to serve for 400 days, for example. So it's an extended period of time. We didn't feel that that is the point maybe we wanted to recommend, but there are people who are out of their job for that period of time. And then Raleigh just reported that they also are doing a wage supplement, but didn't give us any more definitive information. So with that information, we wanted to put forth a recommendation that we felt at least you could consider, discuss with us. We would like to keep the 120 hours full pay in place as it is now, but we would like to recommend adding an additional stipend once employees go past 120 hours. So that would be conditioned upon, and this is a calendar year benefit, as I mentioned, it would only be activated if the person is paid more at the county than they are with the military. And we have had a few examples where the person made more with the military, so that would be something we wouldn't advocate adding to. But if they make more with us, we would like to add that salary differential for up to 6 months, if you're willing to do so, to supplement. So for example, I'll just give you a very simplistic example there. If the employee's making $30 an hour with us, 20 with the military, we would owe them beyond that 120 hours, that $10 difference while they're out on leave time. So I'll kind of pause it there to see if you have any questions, thoughts, comments, recommendations before I move into the ordinance changes.
Have any questions, comments? All right.
Okay. Lauren, if you'll switch gears for me then, and let's show what we would propose addressing on the personnel ordinance front. And the first items I'm going to bring you, I'm actually going to come back on 2 that were approved previously. In implementing the floating holiday and the personal leave day, we felt like we weren't clear enough in our language and needed to put a timeline in there. So what I'm proposing on both of those is going back in and adding that eligible employees must be active on the first day of the calendar year, so 1/1 of whichever year, to be eligible. That means we'll load that time in once per year. If somebody joins us in March, they won't be able to participate year 1. They'll be able to participate year 2. That will make it administratively easier for our finance team, our IT team, HR, and will also hopefully give those employees a little bit of incentive to stay with us. So not trying to hand something out as they first walk in the door, but earning their stripes a little bit and trying to queue that up. So those are the first 2 recommendations, just adding a timeline. And then Lauren, if you'll scroll all the way down to the military portion. And actually, yep. So the green highlighting, again, is things that are already in the policy. And what we would request doing is, if you'll do me one favor and scroll down a little bit further, we need to address in yellow down at the very bottom, the leave without pay status and trying to get that benefit time counted back. So if somebody is out, they're not getting that credit while they're out. If they choose leave without pay, that's their choice, but we want to make sure they're getting credit for those accruals because that is retirement money for them. So just adding that last sentence in yellow there. And then the other portion, if you're agreeable to what we just went over, would be to add that supplement. And if you're willing to go 6 months, that XX would be filled in with a 6-month stipend. So those are the suggestions we would make for updates. And if there's questions or feedback on any of that, happy to discuss as needed.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for you at Lundy. I tend to disagree with the 1 year, bringing a new employee in and penalizing them just because they're new, they're a veteran, and obviously they're serving our country. They're going away for no telling how long. And I would like to see us reduce that maybe to 6 months instead of a year.
Well, the veteran, I'm sorry, I was confusing on that. The 1 year would just be the floating holiday and the personal leave day. For the military, it would be anybody, any military
Okay.
would be
Well,
covered.
I just wanted to be sure we was clear on that. 'Cause
120 days.
I don't want our veterans to be penalized in any way.
Yeah,
Thank
no,
you.
the intention would be to give them that 120 days, and if they are deployed and have to go out longer in that first year, then they too would be eligible for that supplement if you approved it.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? All right.
Okay, thank you.
Moving on, 5.5, Planning and Zoning. This will be Robert Anderson.
Good evening, Commissioners. So each year we come before the board to ask permission to apply for some community development grants. These grants include the Weatherization Assistance Program, the Heating, Air, Repair, and Replacement Program, and the Housing and Home Improvement Program, as well as any Duke Energy programs that are offered to the county. The only program that requires a match is the 10% match for the Housing and Home Improvement Program, but that's part of the larger Home Care Community Block Grant.
Have any questions, comments? All right, you have the next item on our agenda.
Yep. So part of our 2020 home grant, we have generated some revenues. What that means is somebody's paying us back for some projects that we completed in the past. And so we just need to move these revenues into the expense account. That way we can expand services for this program.
Okay. Any questions, comments?
I did have a question. Sorry, I did have a question. So when I was noticing the home grant for, I noticed that we pay about $9,000 for consultant.
That's
fee.
what was, yeah, that's what was allotted to us from the home grant.
Yeah, I'm just, it's not a very, we already aren't getting a whole lot of money from the grant. And so I guess my question is, would it be possible, would it be a more efficient way? Could it be something that our staff did instead of paying $9,000 to a consultant on a grant that's only $15,000, so more of that money can go to the seniors and the folks that need it?
Actually, we do absorb that cost. All that administrative grant or consultant fees are in-house, and so what we use this fund for is to buy different materials for the home program. So if that's like fair housing materials, if we pay for advertisements, that's what we use that for. We actually don't seek outside consultants for this grant.
Okay. So that, the line item that says $9,000 for consultants is not,
Yeah, Kelly can probably better explain it.
Yeah, historically, we did have more money that came in the previous, years, and we did have a consultant who did the work write-ups and all of that. The things we've been doing lately haven't required that. It's really a labeling thing. It is an administrative setup. We get 10% of that grant for administrative activities, and that's 10% calculated off the entire consortium, so it's not really 10% of what we actually get, but we have been using it for staff reimbursement, legal reimbursement, purchasing of materials such as the fair housing books and things of that nature. So it has not been used in recent years for exterior services, just things related to the grants.
is there a way that we could maybe label that differently so that it's not so, I mean, it looks like that money is going to pay for a consultant, which makes it confusing to us and my guess is the public as well.
So that's something we'll have to talk about with finance, because a lot of those labels are in there and have been there for a long time, and so switching them to different categories. And we wouldn't want to be too broad with the use of it, because if we do, it could get accidentally spent in a way that, if we say materials, then somebody might spend it on actual materials and it can't be spent on building materials, let's say. It can be spent on those books. And so it's kind of a cue to our staff that it's administrative activity, but I can have some discussions with finance.
Yeah, I just think it would be better if we labeled it in a different way so that it was more transparent with actually how that money is. Because like I said, when you look at that, it looks like we're paying $9,000 to a consultant and the grant's only $15,000. That's a lot of money to a consultant if we're not.
That actually, the grant is actually larger than that.
Well,
So
I get that, but
yeah, that was
yeah.
an adjustment to a previous one. We actually got probably about $170,000 or so for that originally.
Okay.
So it's a larger amount than that, but yeah, we'll discuss that and see if we can come up with something
Okay.
that's a little clearer.
All right, thank you.
Mr.
Thank you.
Chairman?
Yes.
Just following up on that, sounds like that's administrative costs, so why can't we just call it administrative costs? Again, this is kind of labels that we have in our financial system that we've been using, so we'll have to work on those labels and how they're used, because there's different categories used different ways. So we'll look at it and get back to you with some response on about the best way to do it. But again, that account number that's on there, the 9605,
that is specifically consultants. There's a 9445 that is purchase services. So there's different categories that no matter what department you go to, the front part will tell you what department it is, but that last part tells you what the activity is. So we'll have to look at the activities and figure out how to label that.
I believe you have the next item as well.
I do. So part of the weatherization program, when we work on homeowners' homes that have Duke Electric, Duke will reimburse us a percentage of the cost that we do for the repairs. And so the revenues that we've generated through a couple of these repairs, we're asking to be put back into the expense account, so that way we can continue to further expand the different programs that we have.
All right. And I believe you have the next.
Have the last one too.
If there's no other questions about that, it's simple.
Yeah, so the Housing and Home Improvement Program, after we do work for senior citizens, if they have a certain income, we ask them for a donation just based off what the work that we've done. Typically, we get a very small donation each year from our senior citizens, and so this year we've had about $160 in donations, and so we're just asking that that money be moved from the revenue account back into the expense account so we can continue to help further clients.
Okay. Any questions? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next item on our agenda is, let's see here, an easement agreement, and that is Kelly.
Thank you. The agreement that has come before us is from Charlotte Water. Anytime a utility provider crosses county lines, they have to get permission from the jurisdiction. In this case, they have two areas where they have requested to cross the county line. One is 9001 Quay Road, and the other one is on Harris Road, 11,284. And these are both developer-driven projects that the developer has requested that, and they have confirmed that the City of Concord is okay with that, and the Town of Huntersville has approved, I guess, the subdivision that they are requesting the service for.
Okay. And all of the maps are attached. I'm sure everybody's reviewed that. Is there any questions? Okay. I believe you have the next item, an easement dedication for R. Brown McAllister.
So this is a standard easement donations that we have to do when we develop property, as you're well aware, around utilities. This one goes back to the detention pond and surrounds that detention pond so that there's access for maintenance and whatnot in future years.
Okay. Any questions? All right. I believe you have the next item, lease and agency agreements.
So we have 3 lease and agency agreements before you for all of the new facilities that were in the financing package. So that is Coltrane Webb, Opportunity School, and Mary Frances Wall. So when obviously we own those properties, so we have agreements that allow the jurisdictions to, or the schools to operate and manage those as they own them, as if they own them, while we have to own those for the financing process. And so that's all those documents are, and those are standard.
Those are all included. If everyone's had an opportunity to review those, any questions, concerns? No? All right, we'll move on to the next item, sewer easement at J.M. Robinson High School property.
Yes, so this is a request from a private developer. They literally need 7 square feet of easement onto the property to make a connection to the sewer, I believe it's the sewer. So this is a simple request because the property is still in our name due to financing.
Okay.
And the schools have cleared this with they're okay with it.
Okay. Any questions? All right, next item is temporary construction easement at Cox Mill High School.
Correct. So this is up at the roadway. It is 598 square feet, and it is a temporary easement to allow the City of Concord to do some water connection for the park that they are constructing down the road. So again, it would be temporary.
Okay.
And the schools are okay with that as well.
Have any questions? All right, thank you, Kelly.
Thank you.
All right, so we're approaching 6 o'clock. We can move forward maybe I see Jim Quick out in the audience. Could you see if all of our representative-elects are here? And maybe they could come in with their families and the judges.
Quiet out there. It's a lot of people, yeah.
If we can have our representative-elect, all three of them, and their families come closer to the front, maybe on this front row. Hey there. I see Brian. I see Brian. Hey, Jonathan, is the girl here to sing? We can get Representative-elect Campbell and Anchaveria come on down kind of the front with their family. All right, so we're doing something a little unusual this evening. Unusual, but clearly a positive thing for Cabarrus County. We're going to have our incoming state legislators sworn in here at our commissioner meeting this evening. And so welcome everyone that is here this evening. I got a couple of comments I'm going to make, and then we'll move forward with that. So as far as I'm aware, this is the first time in recent history for Cabarrus County that we've had our incoming state legislators sworn in at a commissioners meeting. And on behalf of the citizens of the county and the County Commission Board, it's an honor to have each of you here this evening. And because each of you are being sworn in at our meeting tonight, we, as elected representatives of the people, are showing a united front from county government to state level representation, and that we're all here to serve the citizens and the taxpayers of this county. It's been a privilege and a pleasure getting to know all three of you over the last few years. I know each of you, and collectively as the Cabarrus County State Delegation, that you will represent our citizens well. We look forward to your leadership in our state government and all of the good that you will accomplish. We as a commission board are fortunate to be working with all three of you on issues that will affect our county government and bringing home state funding that will benefit the citizens of this county. And we're all so proud of you. I just want you to know that. And before we move into the first swearing in, we're going to have the national anthem presented to us or sang by Melissa Wally. And if she will come forward. And if everyone will rise for the national anthem, and you can just get right there, and the acoustics will pick you up.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
That was amazing. Thank you, Melissa, very much. Thank you. All right, so we're going to move back up on our agenda, and we have Brian Echeverria to be sworn in first, so if he will come forward with his family. And also swearing Brian Echeverria in will be Judge Michael Stadding. You just come front here to the center.
All right, Brian, sure, you ready to take the oath?
Yes, sir.
If you'll raise your right hand, left hand's already on the Bible with your family there. Do you, Brian Echeverria, solemnly and sincerely swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States, that you will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of North Carolina, and to the constitutional powers and authorities which are or may be established for the government thereof, and that you will endeavor to support, maintain, and defend the Constitution of said state, not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States, to the best of your knowledge and ability. So help you God?
I do.
And do you, Brian Echeverria, swear that you will well and truly execute the duties of the office of a member of the North Carolina House of Representatives according to the best of your skill and ability, according to the law? So
I
help you
will.
God. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations to you, Brian. Before you step away, if you would like to say something, you are welcome to. A brief statement.
I am grateful, and I look forward to making everyone in our county proud. And I'm thankful for the opportunity to serve from Cabarrus County to Raleigh with government representatives who we can do well together for the people of Cabarrus County. And the question is always, what do you want life to look like 10 years from today? we're going to get it done.
Well, thank you. Before you step away, Brian, before you step away, we have something for you that Commissioner Lindsay's going to present to you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Next, we have Representative-elect Dr. Campbell, if he will come forward. And Judge Michael Stadding will be administering your oath.
Dr. Grant Campbell, you ready to take the oath of office?
I am.
All right, if you will raise your right hand. Do you solemnly and sincerely swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States, that you will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of North Carolina and to the constitutional powers and authorities which are or may be established for the government thereof, and that you will endeavor to support, maintain, and defend the Constitution of said state, not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States, to the best of your knowledge and ability, so help you God?
I do.
And do you swear, Dr. Grant Campbell, that you will well and truly execute the duties of the office of a member of the North Carolina House of Representatives according to the best of your skill and ability, according to the law, so help you God?
I do.
Congratulations.
If you'd like to say something.
I'll just say what I've always said. Chairman, thank you for having us here today. We appreciate this, and I agree that this is a symbol that we are all in lockstep together for our community. I do not see this as a position. I see this as a job. And I have about 80,000 bosses, and those are the people in my district and the people that are going to hold me accountable. I look forward to serving you guys, and I really appreciate you being allies for our community. Thank you.
Thank you. And All right. Next, we have Representative-elect Jonathan Ullman, and we have Judge Beth Street here to administer the oath.
I just want to say I'm so proud of all three of these guys, and I'm very honored to be here to be part of the ceremony. Very small part.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, raise your right hand. Okay, Jonathan Ullman, do you solemnly swear and sincerely swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States, that you will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of North Carolina and to the constitutional powers and authorities which are or may be established for the government thereof, and that you will endeavor to support, maintain, and defend the Constitution of North Carolina, not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States, to the best of your knowledge and ability, so help you God?
I do.
Do you swear, Jonathan Ullman, that you will well and truly execute the duties of the office of a member of the North Carolina House of Representatives according to the best of your skill and ability, so according to the law, so help you God?
I do.
Congratulations.
Thank you. This is so incredible. Lanny got me used to speaking last over this campaign process, but I feel like I should be used to it by now. I feel so lucky to be serving with these guys, and I know we're going to do an amazing job for this county. Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you, everyone, for being here. We are looking forward to working with these gentlemen, and I know they will represent you well in the community. We're going to take probably a 30-minute break here so we can do some photos, and we'll do photos first and then mingle. We also have cake and cupcakes outside the back doors there, so please help yourself, and we will reconvene in 30 minutes. All right, we're going to get started again. Where did we leave off?
We left off at opioid settlement.
Okay. All right, so the next item on our agenda is 5.14, and this is for the opioid settlement funding, and this will be for Elise Pugh. If we can have someone close those back doors, please. Someone can close the... Yeah. Yeah. Okay, he's closing. All right, whenever you're ready, Elise.
All right, good evening, Commissioners. Thank you so much for your time this evening. I know that everyone has heard me present on the opioid settlement funds, but I thought it might be helpful just to give a very quick refresher before introducing a spending authorization for 3 prospective subrecipients of opioid settlement funds. So again, I'll just go through this information really quickly, and then I will invite those 3 providers up here to tell you a little bit about themselves. So this is just an overview of our opioid settlement funds. In terms of the background, the history, and where we are in Cabarrus County. We've done a lot of work over the course of the past year and a half in regard to this. So just in terms of an introduction, again, this was a settlement agreement, a nationwide settlement agreement involving many attorneys general across the entire state. And so this just kind of gives you a little bit of information in terms of the background and the history. One of the things that I really want to emphasize in regard to opioid settlement funds is this is not taxpayer money. This is money from private corporations that has been distributed across the nation in response to the opioid epidemic. You can see here in North Carolina, we are a little unique in that we had an advocacy group that really campaigned hard for the money to come to local governments. So of the roughly $1.5 billion that North Carolina is receiving over the course of the next several years, 80% of those dollars are coming directly to local governments here in North Carolina. This just tells you a little bit about the waves, that this sort of how they categorized it in terms of how the funds had been allocated and distributed across the 100 counties in North Carolina. And for us in Cabarrus County, we're receiving roughly $22 million over the course of the next several years. This document, this North Carolina Memorandum of Agreement, this stipulates how the funds can and have to be spent by local governments in North Carolina. And as you can see, there are 3 broad categories: prevention, and the description for it, preventing future addiction and to address trauma by supporting children and families. The next larger bucket is treatment, and those include therapies and various evidence-based treatments to address substance use disorders. And then the last large bucket is recovery, or services focused on harm reduction provided to help individuals maintain their recovery over the course of their lives. So this just provides, again, a little bit more information in terms of that memorandum of agreement. And what I'd like to highlight for you tonight is that the strategies that can be funded using opioid settlement dollars fall under 2 big sort of buckets or categories. They can either be an option A strategy or an option B strategy. In Cabarrus County, we opted to do the collaborative strategic planning process so that we could access the full list of strategies. If we had not done the collaborative strategic planning process, we would be limited to option A. But because we did that process over the course of fiscal year 24, we can access any of the strategies on that long list of strategies, either option A or option B. So what I did here on this next page is really kind of highlighted for you the strategies that we have already approved, the Board of Commissioners has already approved, and then also the ones that we're going to entertain, or you're going to entertain this evening with our 3 prospective providers. And so the green denotes these are ones that have already been approved, already been funded, and moreover, we have already given contracts to different subrecipients to start implementing the strategies. So the first one is collaborative strategic planning. As I just mentioned, we hired a consulting firm. They initiated and conducted a collaborative strategic planning process, a very robust collaborative strategic planning process over the course of fiscal year 24. Also, what's falling under that first category, that first strategy, is the ability for us to hire a project manager, and that person actually starts with us next week. So that person's position is 100% funded by the opioid settlement dollars, and she will be responsible for really orchestrating and managing this over the course of the next 5 years. The second one is Strategy 2, which involves evidence-based addiction treatment. One of our biggest recipients of that is our very own EMS, Emergency Medical Services. We're funding 2 paramedics who are doing community-based intervention related to opioid use disorder, and it's called MAT, or Medication-Assisted Treatment. So that's working beautifully, and that's under the direction of Deputy Chief Kara Clark. The other subrecipient currently for Strategy 2 is Cabarrus Health Alliance. They're doing some work in partnership with our detention center. So for the next category, Category 3, you see I have it in 2 colors. That's because we're already funding one project through Cabarrus Health Alliance. We're supporting a peer support specialist who's a person with lived experience. And then you'll also hear from 3 prospective providers today who also would like to tap into our opioid settlement funds to continue recovery support services for Cabarrus County residents. That's the other thing I wanted to highlight is Cabarrus County opioid settlement funds are for Cabarrus County residents. And so all of our recipients are aware of that and know that they can only be used for our citizens here in Cabarrus County. Strategy 4 would be a new one for us. Again, 2 of our 3 that you're going to hear from a little bit later are asking for funds to help us provide residential services, which we're not currently doing at all. So this would be a new strategy that we would be funding with your approval. The next one is early intervention. That one is green because we're already funding that. We have an agreement in place with Cabarrus County Schools to do some intervention work with our youth around prevention. That's around prevention, working upstream so to prevent opioid use disorders. Naloxone distribution, this is one that the Board of Commissioners has approved, but we will be implementing it later this year, so we don't have currently any contracts in place, but it has been approved and we will be implementing. And this is related to the antidote. So if somebody experiences an opioid use overdose, you give naloxone and that reverses it, brings that really is a life-saving measure. The next one is Strategy 11, which is addiction treatment for incarcerated persons. We're doing this with our detention center, led by Captain Wallace, and he is a strong advocate for it. So if you're ever interested, he'd be more than happy to talk to you about all the different wonderful services that we're putting in place in our detention center with our opioid use disorder dollars. And then reentry programs. This is another yellow one, meaning it has been approved, but we don't currently have any vendors related to it yet, but that's something we'll be working on this fiscal year and next fiscal year. And then these are those option B strategies. Again, if we hadn't gone through that collaborative strategic planning process, we wouldn't have been able to leverage these strategies. But this one in particular is for women and parenting people with opioid use disorders. And so this is wonderful. The green one is one that's already highlighted. We're going to be able to continue to support the SUN project through Cabarrus Health Alliance using our opioid settlement dollars, so that's wonderful. And then the yellow one has, again, been approved, and we haven't implemented it yet, but that is on our plan for this fiscal year and next fiscal year is to provide evidence-based treatment services to parents who have children, parents who have opioid use disorders and they have children, because we want to make sure that they have those evidence-based parenting skills to keep those families together. This next one, we talked a little bit about our center earlier today. This bucket is solely for our center. This is for adolescents with opioid use disorders so that we can use some of our opioid use disorder dollars for Cabarrus County youth and adolescents who struggle with those issues when our center opens in 2026. All right, so that just kind of gives you a synopsis in terms of all the ones that are either already funded or could be funded with your approval. And next, I'm going to just go quickly over our current projects as well as our proposed projects. I kind of talked about it a little bit already. As I mentioned, we currently have a contract with Cabarrus County Schools to work on early intervention. Cabarrus Detention Center is receiving some of our funds for medication-assisted treatment for detainees. Included with that, anyone who enters our detention center is now being screened for an opioid use disorder. Our Cabarrus EMS community paramedicine program is delivering the service in the community. We're funding a peer support person through Cabarrus Health Alliance. Also with Cabarrus Health Alliance, we're doing the services for parenting women and pregnant women. And then I also mentioned the collaborative strategic planning. So now, in terms of our prospective providers, we have 3 prospective providers here today. I'm I'm going to just call them up in alphabetical order. The first is the Dalton Teen Challenge. They are requesting funds for Strategies 3, which is the recovery support, and 4, which is residential or housing services. The second one would be Bridge to Recovery, and they're requesting services for recovery support. And the last one will be Southeastern Recovery, and they're also requesting dollars for recovery support as well as recovery housing. So with that, I'm going to ask Adult and Teen Challenge representative to come and just share a little bit of information about their organization.
I've got a quick question before we
yes.
get into their presentation.
Absolutely.
So I know that the city of Concord received, or was able to receive opioid settlement funds, and that is being redirected to Cabarrus County with that.
That's correct. So that's part of our big bucket.
Okay, and then were any of the other municipalities included in that?
So that's a great question. So a municipality had to be large enough in order to give its own allocation. In our county, Concord was the only one that was large enough.
Okay. And we do have a Concord City Council member here, Lori Clay, so thank you for being here this evening. I wanted to point that out, but okay, I was just curious because I've only seen Concord's allocation.
Absolutely, yeah. Yes.
All right. Thank you. So where you mentioned continued funding the programs at the schools and the Health Alliance and other places, does our current county budget reflect a reduction in taxpayer funding for those things?
So that's a great point, Commissioner. I think it's important for everyone to understand opioid settlement dollars can only be used for new services or expanded services. So if a service was already in place, you cannot use opioid settlement dollars to supplant that. But if it's a new service, so let me use the Sun Project as an example. The Sun Project has been in existence for a while, but the funding completely dried up. It was a grant-funded program. All of those monies have expired, and all of those grants have expired. So now we can use opioid settlement dollars for that project, but only because the other funding streams are no longer available. Does that make sense? Yeah, great question. Any other questions? All right, I will turn it over to Adult and Teen Challenge.
Good evening. Thank you so much for letting me speak tonight. My name is Andrew Fitzgibbon. I'm the director of the Adult and Teen Challenge facility located in Kannapolis, North Carolina. If you're not familiar with us, we're a faith-centered, long-term inpatient recovery program. Our program totals 9 months in length. Currently, Sand Hills Adult and Teen Challenge, which is our parent organization, operates 4 facilities across the Carolinas. There's the Induction Center, located in Kannapolis. We have a facility in Moore County near Pinehurst. We have a military veteran specialization program in Elizabethtown, North Carolina. And we have an induction center located in Georgetown, South Carolina. We also will soon be serving women. In 2025, we've purchased a property in Sanford, North Carolina, and it's under the renovation process. Our mission is to provide individuals freedom from addiction and other life-controlling problems through Christ-centered solutions. So we are a faith-based organization, and I'd like to say that our organization has been effectively treating those with substance abuse disorders since 1987. That's when our Moore County facility opened. Our facility here in Kannapolis opened in 2014. The Kannapolis facility holds a special place in my heart because I'm currently the director, but also in 2019 I was coming out of a 6-year heroin addiction, and nobody would take me except for Adult and Teen Challenge, so I received my life-saving, life-altering treatment and transformation right here in this county. And so just to be able to stand before you and now to advocate for funds to support the same program that changed my life is a true blessing for me. We base our program off of 5 pillars, 5 core pillars. Those are our curriculum, creating community for our clients, character building, clinical services, that's clinical mental health counseling, and then most importantly, faith. At the end of 2024, we surveyed all of the clients that we graduated in the years 2023 through 2024. That was 70 graduates total. The numbers that we found from our study was that 86% of those 70 graduates were maintaining their sobriety, 86% reported improved family relationships, and 93% were employed full-time as effective, productive members of the community. And so what we're requesting here today is $255,000 total from the opioid settlement funds. Out of that $255,000, $120,000 would go towards student scholarships. That'd be student scholarships for students at our Kannapolis facility only. That's for those who would otherwise be unable to afford care. $75,000 would go towards the construction of a new classroom / multi-purpose building. The end result of that is we'd be able to increase capacity at our facility by an additional 4 beds. And then finally, the last request is $60,000 for the purchase of a new van that facilitates transportation for our clients for legal, medical, counseling matters. So I just want to say thank you very much, and I want to thank you for your support as we continue to affect the lives of Cabarrus County citizens that struggle from opioid addiction. And any questions that you may have, I'm happy to answer.
I don't have a question, but I just want to say congratulations to you. That is something to be proud of, and I'm so happy that you were able to take that now and you're blessing other people with something that you were able to break through and free from. So congratulations to you.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Candace Wood. I'm a licensed addictions counselor and the clinical director at Bridge to Recovery. We are located in Monroe, but we do serve a lot of Cabarrus County residents. Bridge to Recovery is a 30-day residential treatment program. We use professional counselors at master's level, state licensed. We are a stopgap safety net for our communities. Every day people are turned away from treatment programs because there are no beds. Bridge to Recovery survives on grants and donations and a charitable fee for those who can afford it. We do not get, every day people are turned away from treatment because there are no beds available. And Bridge to Recovery survives on grants and donations, and those who can't afford it do pay. We do not get sustainable public funds such as Medicaid. Bridge to Recovery provides $450,000 annually in free care and an equal amount of low-cost affordable care. No one is turned away due to their inability to pay. Residents are in group therapy, private counseling classes, and meetings hour by hour all day long, starting at 6 o'clock in the morning. And it's really cool to watch because they are happy to get up and really just dig into how to have a different life, and I'm privileged to be a part of that every day. All graduates are offered long-term community-based sober living opportunities, meaning nobody is discharged to the street. Our staff works really hard to set them up for success. We have 23 beds and are very excited to be opening 17 more in just a few weeks. When we open our 2 new dormitories, we will have a total of 40 male beds and female beds. Bridge to Recovery has served Cabarrus County for 13 years, and this opiate funding proposal will allow us to increase these services in this great time of need. And I thank you for allowing us the time today.
Are there any questions, comments?
Thank you.
Thank you.
How are you? My name is Jamie Hoffman. Here on behalf of Southeastern Recovery Center. We are a treatment center that opened up in Concord, November of 2023. So, we've been open a little over a year. We have kind of 2 different licenses from the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services. One is a PHP license, the other one is an IOP license, and, they're acronyms. And what it gives us the ability to work with clients for really as many as 120 days. We've got men and women's homes, 28-bed facility here in Cabarrus County. The goal, we helped a lot of people last year. We had over 300 clients come through our program. That's something, we were extremely proud of. As we were going through looking at numbers and metrics, and we keep track of an awful lot. You know, we had 37 clients complete our program from Cabarrus County. There were 88 clients we could not admit because of a handful of different barriers. You know, the housing piece, the way all of this is set up with our license with the state and insurance companies. You know, we're not allowed to use our insurance funds for our housing, and that's a, you know, Blue Cross, Aetna law, rule, whatever you want to call it. And so like the biggest barrier, one of the bigger barriers was, you know, like that housing piece, trying to get them out of the environment that they're in. Like, you know, they can be a part of our program. They don't have to be in our housing, but, you know, to try to get somebody out of the environment that they're in when they've been actively using, you know, I mean, it's hard. So there's a couple things that, you know, we were here for tonight, and I think if Dr. Pugh will allow it, I think we may come back next month as well. But for tonight specifically, you know, we were looking to add 2 peer support specialists. You know, some of the design for that would be longer term accountability, continuing to check in, meet. But like, you know, some of it's doing outreach in the community. You know, the other one would be an allotment of funds for housing. You know, 88 in 2024 was a lot that we couldn't help. And that the biggest barrier there was the housing piece. And I think, you know, through some, you know, local outreach, and Dr. Pugh, you know, she's been a great resource just in the last couple months, for a month or two for us. You know, she's put us into, you know, contact with all kinds of people that we didn't even necessarily know existed. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of what we're here, and I may see you guys again next month. I hadn't gotten that far yet, but thank you.
Are there any questions, comments from board members?
Just one quick, how much were you asking for?
Ooh. Just so I don't butcher anything, I have it on my phone.
So if you don't mind if I answer that, Jamie. So altogether, collectively, $450,000 for Strategy 3 between the 3 providers, and $250,000 for Strategy 4, which does include Southeastern Recovery.
Any other questions?
And the proposed spending authorization should be in your packet. Yep.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Doug.
Any other questions? And I just wanted to also say I had an opportunity to tour all 3 sites, even the one in Monroe. So laid my eyes on it, and these folks are professionals and they're experts at what they do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elise. Next on our agenda is appointments to boards and committees. Does anybody have any questions, comments? All right, seeing none. Next item on our agenda is appointment to the Rowan Cabarrus Metropolitan Planning Organization Committee. And we have our commissioner appointee to that is Commissioner Pittman. We need an alternative or a backup, and Commissioner Shue has graciously accepted to be the alternate for this. And there are time restraints on this, so we're going to need to suspend the rules and vote on that. Commissioner Shue, you're still okay to be the alternate? All right, so I'll entertain a motion to suspend the rules.
I'll make a motion that we suspend the rules and vote on.
No, we're just making a motion to suspend the rules.
Sorry. Okay. Motion to suspend the rules.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, now I'll entertain a motion to appoint Commissioner, well, it says here to appoint Commissioner Pittman, but we've already done that, so we just need the motion for the alternate. Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to appoint Commissioner Shue as the alternate member for the TAC for 1 year for term ending December 31st, 2025.
I'll make the motion
Okay.
to.
I'll second.
All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carries.
Next on our agenda is the Commission on Government Efficiency. And this item was brought forth out of our commission board, and
I will turn this over to Commissioner Lindsay to discuss this item.
All right, so what I wanted to do was kind of take a page from the new Trump administration and their DOGE. And so I thought that we needed a commission that would have the ability to be able to look at any of our financial, construction, operation processes within the government to see where obviously we're not on the federal level, but on the local level, I'm quite certain that we can find some ways to be more efficient with taxpayer money. And I can just briefly read our mission statement. It says the Commission on Financial Efficiency will be appointed by the Cabarrus County Commissioners and work to bring the citizens of Cabarrus County more efficient and effective county services. Appointees are selected based on their background in government, the private sector, or taxpayer advocacy. The Commission shall conduct reviews of financial, construction, and operational practices of county government and report its findings and recommendation back to the Cabarrus County Board of Commissioners for examination and final action. The current members to start out with would be 4, which would be myself as the chair, Lee Schuman, Wes Honeycutt, and Chris Meismer.
And between now and our next meeting, I know that our legal will be working on the legal language for this commission, and part of that I would like to see included is that the chairman of this commission will make the appointments to this committee as part of that language. And you have something else?
No, I was trying to turn it off.
Okay, so I'd like to see that as part of the language, and I think that this would be a good start for this commission board to review some of the stuff that we have going on here at the county level and have fresh eyes to take a look. And I know that we have a staff that works hard, and we appreciate their hard work. And but this is a way to complement that and have a fresh set of eyes to look at some of this information. Is there any other comments or?
Mr. Chairman, I just say I wish we'd have had this in Raleigh when I was there.
All right. Anyone else?
Yep. Mr. Pittman, are you finished?
Yes, sir.
You get through? Mr. Chairman, I wanted to make a few comments. You know, you and I talked about this earlier today because prior to this being on our agenda, I didn't know anything about it. We hadn't discussed it or anything. And, you know, I expressed to you my concern that I think that you and Commissioner Lindsay did this without the consultation of the other board members, including myself and Commissioner Wortman. I don't know about Commissioner Pittman if he was advised, but, you know, we're a board, we're not an I, we're a team. And we're supposed to work together, and all during your campaign and Commissioner Lindsay's campaign, and Commissioner Lindsay stood right here a number of times and made comments during public comment time talking about transparency. Well, you're not being transparent with this because a board is a board, not a couple people, and we need to be included in it. But the way that I look at this is that this is like an oversight over our finance department. Now, our finance department is audited every year, and they get awards year after year. I don't know if Jim Howden's still here, but he could tell you the number of awards that we've received, the number of AAA ratings from the bond agencies, and, you know, we never have any deficiencies that we need to correct. Doesn't mean that we won't have at some point, but, you know, I think that putting light through a committee on our finance department creates doubt in them that they're not doing their job. And they need outsiders, people that comes in that don't know what they do or what they've been doing for years and years and years. And then they all of a sudden want to say, well, don't do this no more, or you need to do this or need to do that. You know, it's not my job as a commissioner to run the finance department or to run the county office. My job as a commissioner, voted on by the citizens 3 different times as a county commissioner, is to help the county manager make decisions that's going to make Cabarrus County better. And we don't need an oversight committee, which is basically what this is. And not only that, you know, I don't know who selected the members, the new members. The board didn't vote on that. We haven't even discussed it. And Mr. Chairman, you told me today that, well, we got 2 weeks to discuss it. But it's on the agenda, so more than likely, this probably, in my opinion, we can wait until then, but would need to come off of the consent agenda and be on new business so we can vote on it. Because we haven't voted on it, we haven't even discussed it. But anyway, I'm not one that likes to stir the pot. I'm one that tries to keep things simple. But I want it to be right and in order, and as you referred to, transparency. And we've always tried to do that, but I think our definition of transparency is not the same. But anyway, that's just a few comments that I have on it. And I'm sure there's some that disagree. There might be 1 or 2 that says, yeah, you're right, but that's okay. We're supposed to agree to disagree and be able to function as human beings, trying to do our best to do what's right for the citizens of Cabarrus County. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Well, thank you. And that's exactly what we're trying to do, is do right by the citizen and the taxpayer with this. And, you know, we had a conversation about this earlier today. Since I've become chairman, I've made a point to contact each of the board members before every meeting to have a discussion, whether we agree or disagree, or to hear concerns. And this is the process. You know, you say that you haven't been, you know, consulted on this. That's why we have these agenda meetings. This is what we're doing here today. It was put on the agenda. You had from Wednesday or Thursday until today. We're not voting on it for another 2 weeks. So this is your time to give your opinion, just as you have. There's no sort of stipulation that I need to consult with you on every agenda item. If I had to consult with every member on this board individually for the 20-something items on each agenda, that would be a tall feat. So that's what this meeting is for you to discuss this. You know, there's not much more transparent than we can get by having this on the agenda and having a discussion here about it today. But thank you for your comments.
What was the application process for naming these 2 people? And was it submitted to all of the residents of Cabarrus County, or did we just pluck them out of the air because those are the 2 we thought best?
We felt that these 2 individuals would represent our county very well. And we have copies of the resume if you'd like to see that.
Because I haven't seen it. We haven't talked about it. Out of 240,000 people here, there might be 2 more. They might be the best. I don't know. And as far as Commissioner Shue's comment, you know, I don't think it's very transparent at all. You do call. You called me at 12 o'clock today after the names are already listed on here. We've named 2 people that come and give public comment. We've named those 2 people here, but we were going to take 1 person off of a board that got removed from our agenda for no reason whatsoever. I'd like to know the reasoning for all those. You know, there was a lobbyist that we've had that wasn't discussed with us. That's $4,000 a month. Mike's been told not to pursue any more communication with our financial experts. That's not been discussed with any of us.
Those are county manager decisions.
But there's an email where you told Mike you are not to have any more communication. Is that not a board decision?
No, I did not say have no more communication. I said there's
I'll
no
bring the
need to
email.
move forward
I'll bring the email
with
to our regular meeting.
our financial advisors. because they're the ones who have gotten us into the mess that we seen last summer with LGC. They are the ones that have got us into that saga, and we're here to correct that. And that's part of what this committee's going to do. We're going to correct the wrongs that have been done.
How are those two the most qualified in the county? That's all I'm asking. If you didn't open up to everybody in the county, that's not open. And you sit up here and talk about transparency, then throw it out there. Let's have it. Do it. Let's see the application process, have everybody that wants to put it for it. I don't have a problem that you want to create this committee. That's not my problem. My problem is you've already named 2 people to it before we even discussed it. It's not transparent. Open it up, let the people decide, give it a month, and then whoever y'all pick, you pick. That's fine. But to me, that's the right process to do. Again, I got no problem with the committee. You want to, whatever, more eyes on it, the better. But my problem is already naming the 2 people at a work session when the work session is our chance to talk about it, but you've already named them. That's my problem. So, and I'll leave it at that, but.
And you have the ability to vote against it.
And I would like for us, is this supposed to be on our consent agenda?
I do not decide the clerk of the board decides what goes on that consent or not. So I did not tell her to place that on the consent. Obviously,
we can pull it off.
You guys should know that you can pull any item off the consent agenda at any time. So there's no problem with that.
That's fine.
We can continue this discussion in our general meeting.
That's fine.
And have a vote.
Mr. Chair, just comment that I would have is, and I think you kind of touched on it already, is the need for this is clear from the debt we're in as a county. And that's not just our personal debt, that's debt people of this county have to pay. And I think we need to be working on reducing that debt any way we can within legal and reasonable means.
We also have the best debt rating that a county can have, do we not, Mike, from all 3 agencies? Yes, sir. So, I mean, if I understand we have debt, but you're making it sound like it's awful, and we wouldn't have those ratings with those agencies if it was that awful. Again, I'm not opposed to this committee. Go for it. But like I said, I'm opposed to naming people before we even sit here at a work session. And obviously, if we've had them named, then there's been conversation with at least 2 of you. I mean, Commissioner Meismer and Commissioner Lindsay are the chair and vice chair or on that committee. I don't know if you've heard it, but it'd be nice to hear that. If you're going to call us the day of the meeting, if you want to add this on there,
You've got 2 weeks to think about this, to decide how you want to vote. This is part of the process. Items go on the agenda for the work session. You have 2 weeks to think about it, talk about it, call me with your concerns, and then
Did you
decide
guys
how you're
talk?
going to vote.
Did the 2 of
As
you
chair,
talk?
vice chair?
Yes.
We
And what's
consult
one
on
more
many
phone
things.
call? What's another phone call?
Like I said, I make contact with every board member up here, so.
You guys preached on transparency, and you sat up here on your very first night and made a big deal about my number 1 thing is I'm going to communicate with everybody. And now you're telling me, well, maybe
I
or
do,
maybe not.
because the previous chair of this board, I received 2 phone calls over 2 years. As I said, part of my leadership strategy is that I will contact every board member before each of these commissioner meetings.
And how many of those meetings did you have a problem with how that operated? And you said it, and you're doing the same exact thing. It's just to different people.
I hear your concerns. Like I said, you have the right to vote against this in 2 weeks.
Mr. Chairman, I will make just one more comment. Since Commissioner Pittman brought this up, obviously it's not part of the financial efficiency, but Larry, you commented in reference to the debt. Surely it's not our personal debt. It is the citizens' debt. But I wanted you to know that when I got on the commission board in 2014, the debt for the county was somewhere around $450 million, somewhere thereabouts, give or take a few million. Well, since that time, we've built at least 10 schools, a new courthouse, $130 million courthouse, a parking deck over there, a new EMS building, a new IT building, and purchased land banked for 2 new high schools. And we're still not much more indebted now than we were 14 years ago, because we do have very good practices when it comes to borrowing money. The Community Investment Fund gets contributions each year from the general fund after the audit has been completed. And most of the time, unless that money is used for one-time projects, it goes into the Community Investment Fund. And it has grown over the years. And but as far as the financial condition of the county, people say, "Oh Lord, we going broke. We going broke." We've increased our assets in the county. I can't add it all up, but you just figured yourself, 10 schools and the items that I just mentioned there, it's upwards of $1 billion. But yet we're only a few, 10, maybe $20 million more than we were in 2014. So that tells me that we're doing an excellent job on that. Hence, another reason that we don't need, Commissioner Wortman said he would be okay with it. Well, I'm open with it. I'm not okay with it because I don't think our finance department needs oversight. But anyway, I don't want to say all that again. That's all I have.
All right. Anything else? All right, we'll move on to next item, 5.18, general discussion about WASAC board members. I'll turn this over to Commissioner Lindsay.
So we have, with the WASAC, we have a commissioner seat that Commissioner Meismer serves, and we have 2 at-large seats that I would like to see new representation added to the WASAC. And I would like to replace Jonathan Marshall and Bob Ritchie with Joshua Mendoza and Doug Paris from Midland. Due to the constraints and time, they do have their next meeting on January the 15th, and I would like the 2 new members to be able to be seated at that meeting. I would like to suspend the rules and to vote to make these changes happen tonight.
Have any comments?
Bob Ritchie.
All right. Any comments, questions?
Let me comment on that. Since I'm the former WASAC member, I served the WASAC for 4, maybe 5 years. And I know that Midland's been seeking representation for a long time on the WASAC, but there is such a thing that this has been to the state. The lawyers have looked it over. The Department of Environmental, Water and Quality, they all looked at it. And they come up with that you have to be a participating jurisdiction. And a participating jurisdiction is a municipality or a jurisdiction that provides a retail customer base to the WASAC to have a seat on the WASAC board. Midland gets their water from the town of Concord, city of Concord. They don't have a retail customer base that they can just turn over to WASAC because there's billing, there's maintenance, and there's infrastructure needs that a participating jurisdiction has to be able to provide. And Midland has not been able to do that. And so, as far as the board representation, you took me off and put yourself on, and that's okay. That's just one less job I have of my many other jobs. But the thing that I wanted to make light of is that Jonathan Marshall has been on that board. County Manager Downs, can tell me, he's been on since the beginning of WASAC. Would you think that's probably a true statement?
I'm not sure of the number of years, but I think this is third term, maybe.
Yeah, he's been on there, and
worked as a staff.
The man has a wealth of knowledge about WASAC, what they do, how they do it, and watched us and supervised the expansion projects. And we're currently in phase 4 of an expansion project to increase our capacity. Now, Bob Ritchie, I don't know how long he's been on there, but he's just like Jonathan. These guys has got a wealth of knowledge, and you're taking that away from a board. And I don't know that Mr. Parrish or Mr. Mendoza, you mentioned, I don't know Mr. Mendoza, but I don't know that they could offer a degree of any sort of type advice or recommendations because they're not familiar with it. But these people you're taking off are, and they're willing to serve, to my knowledge. I haven't talked to them, but I'm willing. I suppose they're still willing to serve because it's a big thing, and it was a big thing for me. I enjoyed serving, but you know, you think you're going to shake things up. Well, I guess you're shaking it up a little bit. But anyway, you know, I just wanted to express my dismay on this, and I, of course, would be voting against it.
Are there any other comments?
Mr. Chairman, I understand the concern about Midland not being a direct retailer or retail recipient, whatever. But they're in the loop because, okay, they get it through Concord, they're still getting it. And they're not being represented. And it's high time, cotton picking time, they got represented. And so I'm in favor of this. And I just feel like it's time that they quit being treated like the red-headed stepchild in the county.
All right. Do I have a motion?
I'd like to make the motion to suspend the rules.
All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 3-2. All right.
All right, and I move that we replace Bob Ritchie with Joshua Mendoza, and move that we appoint in the place of Jonathan Marshall, Doug Paris, and including our exception to our residency policy.
All right. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All right. If someone lives outside of the county, I'm not sure. The applications have been filed with the clerk. She has those. I had requested them earlier today and have not received them, but I know that they're on file. All right, so we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No. Motion carries 3-2. All right. Moving on to item 6.1, approval of the regular meeting agenda. I believe there was a request for item, if you're looking at the regular agenda, a request to move item item 3 under the consent, move that to new business. Any other changes?
Also, since you suspended the rules to take care of the alternate position, we will remove that. And I
Okay.
also wanted to note, these go on consent based on your rules of procedure, so that's not something I just choose for you. That is based on either what was discussed at your meeting, your work session by the board, based on the criteria of your rules of procedure. So if that's something that you all would like to change, do note that in the rules of procedure, because that's what I followed to make that happen.
Okay. And so everyone's aware, you can remove an item off the consent agenda anytime you want. So, all right, so do I have a motion to approve the regular agenda with the changes?
So moved.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. And we do not have a need for closed session, so thank you, everyone that has stuck around this long, and I think that was a excellent evening. And, oh, I'm sorry, I'm just being told that we do have a closed session. So I will entertain a motion to go into closed session.
So moved.
Second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, all opposed?
Who said that?
Kelly did. All right, we are now in closed session. Kelly said we were going.
Property acquisition.
Okay. Missed it. Yeah.